Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Side Quests, the wargaming, Warhammer-y type podcast where we go on a lot of side quests talking about things that aren't necessarily wargame related, but things that we're enjoying talking about anyway. I'm Ben and I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Ollie, and I'm here with my co-host Ben for episode 2. Exciting!
This is exciting, isn't it? So we were quite excited to have episode 1 under our belts. It's taken us a little bit of time to get back to do episodes. Is it 2 weeks since we recorded the last one?
I think so. Yeah, so lots to talk about, lots of things happening, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we struggle to find time with family lives and recording and other stuff going on in our kind of personal lives, but we're pleased to be back. And hopefully I'll be able to sort of keep up a constant pace with these. So, what have you been up to over the last couple of weeks then? Anything hobby related?
I will address this. If you can see, if you're watching or if you're listening, I basically look like a Klingon.
I did want to point out the Klingon cosplay that you've got on.
I want to have a cool story, right? And say, like, I was in the store and I was attacked by 6'5", built like a door, but in fact, it was just a door. I walked head on into the thin part at the end of a door and basically KO'd myself in the stockroom whilst doing Hivestorm deliveries because Kill Team Hivestorm came out. So it was about like 30 boxes up and down a flight of stairs. I swung around and knocked myself out on the floor. So
wow.
Yeah, that was another reason why it took it. We were actually going to record like 3 days ago, but I had to go to bed.
you were
okay,
slightly,
by the way, but
you were slightly concussed. But
concussion. Yeah, I feel like I got whipped. I ended the sentence in there, KO myself. But I'm feeling better now, mostly, and things are ready to go. So I'm excited to talk about today's topic, which is that was a good lead-in. Benji, what's today's topic?
Is now the best time to get into Warhammer?
Oh baby! But just
Oh
before
yeah.
that, have you been up to anything hobby related? I knocked myself out, but I haven't really done anything. What about you?
You filmed a video. You've got a video on the way.
That's true. I did finish a video, and I have a second video almost done, and a third video started.
Amazing. Do you know what? It's just kind of frustrating me at the moment. I've got loads of videos that are half finished. I just need to get over the line. Like one of them, literally all I need to do is the thumbnail. 2 more, I've got a little bit of kind of editing to do and things, but I'm just really struggling to find the time at the moment. You know, new job and everything. It's just kind of taking it out of me a little bit. So I'll get there. I'll get a few more videos out soon. But do you remember last week or in the last episode we were talking about our kind of dream armies?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Do you remember
what
Lord
of the Ringsy
was?
One? Lord of the Ringsy.
It's not the Lord of the Ringsy one.
Wait, what was yours?
It was the Chaos.
Oh, old Chaos. No. Did you do it? What a box! The Warriors of Chaos Battalion box for Old World.
So,
oh man, even I've been eyeing that up, and I don't even like Chaos.
Yeah, well, it was one of those things. Like after the last conversation, I was like, do you know what? It's one of those I'm probably not going to get around to painting for a long time, but it's an army that I've kind of, I wouldn't say idolized for a long time, but it's one that I've kind of thought, I'd love to do a Chaos, like old world, fantasy army. So I was just sort of thinking, even if I get round to it one day, if it's 5 years' time, 10 years' time, that box will be there waiting for me, was my attitude towards it. And earlier this week, I was working over in Cleethorpes, so I had a client to go and see over there. And I went to see our friends at Grim Dice Tabletop Gaming.
Oh, lovely. Dom and Stu over at Grim Dice.
Yeah, so it was really nice to go and see them. They've got a brand new shop. It's massive. So you visited their old shop, didn't you?
Yeah, a few times. They had a market stall when I first met them, and then they moved to a shop where they had that other one. Then they increased that shop, and now they've gone to a new shop. But odd story, I actually met them when I started the channel. They started the shop just as I started the channel. At the time, I was working for Warlord Games in the events team, and I was doing demoing Strontium Dog at the Warlords Open Day, and they turned up and we got chatting, and ever since then we've spoken I talked to them quite a lot, and they really helped me with my shop. They're such good guys up there.
Yeah, they're absolutely great guys. I went and did the 24-hour challenge. Was it 24? Yeah, 24-hour challenge with them God, it's got to be a couple of years ago now. And it was great. Like the shop was like absolutely jam packed to the rafters with stock. Like, you know, you couldn't, a bit like your shop really, which is a nice segue. Obviously, you've got Broadsword Wargaming, the shop. So if you're in the EU or in Ireland, that is the best place to go get your wargaming needs. But yeah, you know, they had that kind of smaller shop, and it was absolutely jam packed full of stuff. And the new shop now is like that's the dream. Do you know what I mean?
Is it good?
I think they had like a 60-person event. You know, they've got a lot of room to kind of expand into it if they decide to put war stock in and things like that. So really nice to go and see those guys. Go and check them out if you're in the Grimsby or kind of Lincolnshire area. Go and check them out. Go and say hello. Tell them that we sent you. And if you're in the UK, they've got a website as well. They stock loads and loads of stuff. So go and have a look at them. Little plug for them.
Nice.
So yeah, I thought, you know, I'd share that I'd gone to get that. So yeah, they're probably not going to get painted for a very long time. But it was always you know, since I saw that army, it's always been the one day army. So I thought I may as well buy it now and have it sat there waiting
get
for
the
me
misery
for the day
out of the way. Empty the wallet.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that. Plus, if you get the Lord on Manticore, a battle standard bearer on foot, and a wizard, that's like more than 2,000 points. That's it.
Yeah.
Like you can get more orders too if you want to fluff it out, but like that would be like a classic Chaos army. Like, such a good box set. Literally, that's 2,000 points. Chaos Knights are just awesome. So man, I love that box set. Even though I've been tempted, I look at it. I have a couple in the shop. I look at them just like, oh, like, do I just get them put together?
I just love the way that they kind of like sit. They're all like shoulder to shoulder, like shield, like weapon, and you know, the new Age of Sigmar ones, they're just a bit too dynamic for that, aren't they? Like they just wouldn't look right if you kind of rank. They
actually don't put together very well. So the new models are awesome. The new Age of Sigmar Chaos are also awesome. But the old ones have stood up pretty well. Look at them against like the Tomb Kings, right? Who do look like I think Kira described them as Kinder Egg toy models, right? The old skeletons, and they look terrible. But you put them against like the Chaos Warriors. The Chaos Warriors look like you could have them in modern AOS, and it wouldn't look terrible. They're just good. They rank up nicely. Such a good army, man. Snow bases, right? Obviously, surely, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I don't quite know what I'm going to do with them yet. It's again, they're the one day army, so
I won't do anything with them. Realistically,
I'm not going to do anything with them for a very long time. I'll probably die before I actually get around to doing them. Realistically,
leave them in the will. I want them.
But yeah, they'll be here for you for when I die, so don't worry.
Perfect. That's all I need. That's the whole reason I've got this podcast, is to get your stuff when you die.
Exactly. Yeah, you can help Lucy sell it, and she's like, oh yeah, that's not worth much. That's only a $5 or so. That I'll take it off your hands. I'll look after it.
I think he said I can have those ones. Yeah. He said I can have.
Definitely. Yeah.
I want Melrond. Actually, I want your old melt face Elrond.
It's just...
we played a doubles event. Even last year, was it longer ago? No, it was last year now.
It was last year. Yeah, last September.
Yeah, we played the doubles event where we did the old alliance. We spoke about it in the last podcast maybe. And but yeah, I took Elrond, but I lost my Elrond on foot. I lost the sword arm or something. So I had the modern Elrond, but when he got knocked off his horse, I needed a model, so I used your old like. The painting is wonderful, but just the sculpt. He just has a big weird face. So
it's not. I've seen people painting them better, but you see some people that are able to sort of paint the details back into models. Like I think it's one of those sculpts that kind of benefits from that, you being able to sort of paint those details back in.
Like make the details up, haven't you? Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas sometimes the details just aren't quite there. Like it's kind of held up, but like the new one's just so much better. So anyway, so we've kind of meandered. We want a little side quest there, little plug for the
as it should be. In fact, we're almost at the 10-minute mark, and we haven't spoke about what we're meant to talk about again.
Exactly.
Wait, what was the topic again? Right, you said it 5 minutes ago. Something about Warhammer.
Is now the best time to get into Warhammer? So what do you think?
Interesting topic.
Do you think now is a good time to be getting into Warhammer?
So, I mean, when people say Warhammer, right, if you didn't know, if you're a lay person, right, someone who doesn't know about it, you wouldn't say Games Workshop 140,000 or whatever, you just say Warhammer, right? Because Warhammer is kind of the brand that people know of. They don't know of the games. Now, I've got like 3 different angles to come at this from. One would be the shop. So we've had a massive influx of people buying the starter sets lately, all the starter paint sets, the starter models, because they've been playing Space Marine 2, which has been out for a couple of weeks now. And Space Marine 2 has been absolutely massive for getting new players into it. They've come in and maybe play Space Marine 1, but a lot of people have said they've come in, play Space Marine 2, and they want to do Space Marines against Tyranids, right? And you get that Recruit Edition set for whatever it is, €40 or something. Everything you need in it, rules, models, paints, a paintbrush, like the models are push fit, you don't need glue. It's a really good starter product for someone who's not played. Now, they did also release the limited like Titus versus Tyranid ones as well, but they made that a Games Workshop exclusive, not available online, only available in stores and limited runs. So like, I don't know why they didn't make that a general product, because that would have sold so well.
For me, that's the sort of product that you put into like Waterstones and like places as well. Like
I don't know.
Make it a board game type thing. Do you know what I mean? Rather than it kind of having it as an exclusive product. Like, I'm hoping, because that Titus model is really cool, and it just feels that it was, is that the only way that you've been able to get it so far?
Yeah, yes. I can't get Titus. Yeah, absolutely. That's the only way. I don't even have one. And we run a shop, and I'd love to have that. Kira would like that. Like, it's a good entry game. The Titus one actually is its own game. It's like a simplified 40k. So you have like Recruit Edition and Combat Patrol and 40k, but they're all the same. But when that game has its own things, you roll less dice, you get back, like the game. It's like the computer game. You get back up and stuff. So it's a really good product. Unfortunately, not available for us, but I suppose people going into Warhammer shops can pick it up. So that's a really good product to get people in at a good time. And Space Marine 2 has just been massive. So, like, I think the discoverability is better than ever. And YouTube now wasn't around 30 years ago. You couldn't just Google what's Warhammer. It's a White Dwarf magazine or nothing. Now people come in, they say, I've been looking at the lore, I've been reading books, I've been whatever. And I'm really interested in specific stuff because it's so like broad now. I think that in that sense, there's some good products. But does that make it a good time to get into Warhammer? It's expensive, I suppose, as a hobby. But then, is everything not expensive now?
Yeah,
like,
true.
Everything in life is expensive.
I've got my kind of views on that, which I'll come on to in a minute. But going back to Space Marine 2, like, that's such like a good entry place for people who've never really thought about Warhammer before. You've got people who are predominantly gamers, and the game seems to be, I'm not particularly a gamer. I'm still playing games that kind of came out 10, 15 years ago.
I like Age of Empires too, man.
Yeah, exactly. Fallout 3, Fallout 4, New Vegas.
I just downloaded Diablo 2 remastered as well. That's about 30 years old. I've just been playing Dungeon Keeper recently, which is like proper old school. Is that from like 96 or 97 maybe? So yeah, that's like proper old school. But yeah, so I'm probably not best placed to kind of make comment on it. But it seems to have been kind of a very well received game. Whereas I think some other Warhammer games have almost felt like a bit of a I don't know, like a bit of a cash cow, maybe. Again, I'm probably not best placed, but obviously just from feedback that I read, like, this is genuinely a really, really good game that people are kind of really enjoying. So I think it's bringing in gamers, because it is a good game, it's bringing in gamers that would otherwise not have engaged with the Warhammer universe. So obviously, as you say, it's kind of bringing in lay people who've maybe never really thought about it before into the hobby. And obviously, because it's creating that entry point, then they're kind of exploring further. It's like, oh, what is Warhammer? I've heard about it, and I've always thought it's this kind of really nerdy thing, but now it's in this really cool, popular game. Is it actually acceptable for me to kind of look into it and start playing it? So yeah, I think that has been so valuable for growing the community and growing the player base, really. I mean, Warhammer has never been more accessible, right? Like no. You can buy it online. There's like friendly local gaming stores everywhere. There's people talking about it. I've played a lot of the Warhammer games, most of them really. Between Space Marine 2 and Warhammer Total War, the Total War series, that's been really popular. Between that's the fantasy, and I think that's half the reason why they brought the old world back, to be honest, is omitted to sell old models for extortionate prices, but also because Total War 2 has been really popular. So Total War and Space Marine, you've got 40k and fantasy covered. They did do a couple of ages. I played now think about it, like all the Warhammer games, right? We haven't had a real good one like Dawn of War since early 2000s. Since then, what's the best 40k game been? We had Dark Tide last year. That was good. But they did do a sort of a shitty board version of that, but it wasn't a Space Marine, right? And Space Marine and Ultramarine is just what Warhammer is.
They're the poster boys, aren't they?
Yeah. And Space Marine 1 was good, but it wasn't as good as this. Vermintide, we've got Vermintide 2, again, similar games, but just not as good. So
do you know,
I think
I've actually played I think it was Vermintide 2, I think it might have been, and I just couldn't quite get into it. And I don't know what
Same.
it is. It just wasn't the game for me. So yeah, I had tried playing it, but it just wasn't for me. And I've not really, again, played Space Marine 2, but yeah, it's
I've been crushing it, to be honest, playing a lot. Even Kira's been enjoying it. She's not like a 40k fan, to be honest. As much as she likes one, I'm sure she likes stuff about it, but overall, I wouldn't say she's an Age of Sigmar person. But she's been enjoying it, and she played Battle Sector the other day on stream, which is another 40k game, and it's quite like a complicated like tactical game, strategy game, and I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying that's not really her bag, right? But I came in after we were halfway through the stream, and she's like, "Oh, if you put this orc next to this, you get this like buff from this and this," and it kind of got her brain thinking about Warhammer stuff. So between Battle Sector, for the Space Marine, Dark Tide, Total War, there's just so many things, and I think it's catching the people who are on the edge, right? Who would play, but I've never really thought about the miniatures or haven't looked any further, So like the same way you kind of can convert a few board game people into war gamers or D&D people into war gamers, there's a crossover, but they've never quite made the jump. And now I think there's a massive jump going. So it's really interesting to see that. So like it's accessible now. Yes, it's expensive, but there are cheap entry level products. So from those things, it's good.
Just again, I keep going back to Space Marine 2, but I think it's also kind of the older gamers, maybe people of our generation, the
don't say it. Don't say old.
Getting on for middle-aged kind of blokes.
Oh my God.
But, but there's people who potentially played when they were younger, or kind of maybe had some of the models when they were younger. And I think obviously seeing the game and then kind of just having that consciousness about the game sort of thing. I think people are going, oh, do you know what? Actually, I wouldn't mind exploring that again. So I think there's definitely seems to be that kind of niche of people kind of turning back to the hobby, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we get a lot of people in store as well who and on videos. I've done a couple of 90s videos, painting in 90s style, and they've absolutely boomed this last 3 weeks. I'd say each of those have got like 50,000 views each for videos that are like 2-3 years old. It's crazy, like huge views, and they've all gone together. And I've got loads of people going, I used to paint Warhammer in the 90s. I used to paint Warhammer in the 90s. So they'll be in their mid-late 30s, 40s. But I get a lot of people come in store who are our age, who have kids, right?
Yeah.
Who are 10, 12, 8, whatever age. And they come in because I used to play Warhammer in the 90s. I've got some old models from whatever, 2nd, 3rd edition. I'm just looking to get it now. My son loves it or my daughter loves it. So like, we're also now, we're the people who are like leading, I don't mean us specifically, but like the generationally, are the people who are leading, bringing young kids in, because we're bringing our kids into it now. Like, I've got a kid who's a bit older, but she's not that bothered, but I've got a baby now. And like, man, if in 10 years time that kid isn't playing Eldar, like, or if he's playing Dwarves or something else, he's gone. If he's playing Dwarves, he's out. If he's not interested at all, I'll just disown him.
He can move out.
Yeah, he can just move out on his own at 10 and get a job. So like, we're also like attracting, we have an interest, a vested interest in that. And if it's something you can do together, I don't know, actually side quest tangent. I did an event at the library lately, the county council library here in Castlebar. And they invited us to come in. There's kind of a bit of a Comic-Con day, and they invited us to come in and do like a painting session and a gaming session. So Kira and I, we set up there with a couple of demo tables for 40k Age of Sigmar and a ton of models and paints and stuff, and let people have a go. I say there's 60 or 70 kids painting Space Marines, anything from the age of like 6 to 15, 16, parents coming in, leaving the kids there or playing games or whatever. So like, it's even like just things like the council like are getting invested in. There's a place here for people with learning difficulties called Feroiga. They messaged us and came in. They're down the road for us and said, hey, a lot of people here play Magic and D&D and Warhammer. We don't, as a staff member, don't know what they're talking about. Do you want to come in and do a day, show us, tell us what it's about?
Amazing.
And do a day the kids. So like, that's how crazy like Warhammer is now. Like, there's like council run places coming and going, yeah, we need to learn about Warhammer because kids are into it. Like,
it's great. It's so good. Like, that sort of stuff is, you're reaching out to new customers, aren't you? And people who may have not even been aware of what it is.
But that's not even from like, not even from the sales or shop point of view, just the altruistic point. The reason I started a shop like yourself or a channel is because I love the hobby. I want people to experience. You don't get that anymore. In the 90s, right? I was in Games Workshop Peterborough. I used to go there on a Thursday, get dropped off. My two brothers and the staff members like Alan, Jeff, Paul, wherever the years, were like kind of like I don't know, like babysitting basically at that point.
Yeah.
We'd be in there and, my mum would spend money at Christmas and we'd all buy each other birthday presents. And like, I want, that's gone now. Time doesn't, we don't like Christmas shopping isn't the same. All those things have gone. We live in the world we live in now. So I want to bring that back is what I want. That's my whole mission.
Yeah.
Bring back like,
I love that.
Homely, safe space for people, kids and stuff. Do you know what I mean? I haven't got the shop to facilitate it right now as much as I'd like, but I still do events when I can, and we do kids afternoons and demo days. But like, that's why I started the hobby, and being able to go there and like show loads of kids painting, and people's parents coming on saying, we had emails afterwards going like, my kid had the best day they've ever had. They said that's their best day they've ever had in their life because they got to paint and play Warhammer. Like, that's regardless amazing. Of whether they buy something or not, that's cool because that's the experience I had, right?
Yeah.
So even that now, the accessibility in that point. So, computer games is one thing, but the accessibility of being able to go places and do it is also another massive step to get into Warhammer for kids or adults. So I just love that.
Yeah.
That's a little heart-to-heart moment, wasn't it? Again,
yeah, emotional. I know. You really kind of, you were speaking passionately
about that. That's what I liked. Why would you start a shop or a channel if you didn't love it? I'm not here to just make money. I'm not some, sure, that's part of it, but, that's not the point. Yeah, I'd go and just be a stockbroker or something. I don't know, like something sensible.
Something sensible. Yeah. Not running a shop. No, totally. So we kind of touched on it earlier, and I think you said getting into Warhammer is expensive. Now I kind of have my view on this, and it's not necessarily like a popular view, shall we say? So I know there's going to be people potentially in the comments going, "Warhammer's definitely expensive games."
I'm excited. Are you going to get us cancelled on episode 2?
Yeah, episode 2, we are cancelled. So my kind of view on Warhammer is actually, I think it's very affordable to get into. I think once you kind of get past the point of wanting to just have like starter sets and beginner paint sets, because like how much is the very basic kind of, is it the Recruit Edition?
Yeah, what it's called, introductory. It used to be called Recruit Edition in the last edition. That used to be 40 euros, 36 euros from us. So it's more expensive in Ireland than it is in England. The further from England you go, the more expensive the hobby gets.
The more expensive it seems to be.
So that used to be 36, but that included no paint. So the old edition, Recruit Edition, was just 2 models. It was Necrons versus Space Marines with a set and everything else. Now it's introductory set, which is 55 euros RRP. So we did it for 49.50, and that comes with the same stuff, but you also get paints and a paintbrush. So if you and I have to go say, hey, I want to try Warhammer, 25 euros each, and we can play a game.
So to me, 25 euros each, isn't, you pay that to go to the cinema. It's essentially, it's cinema trip and a few snacks. It's the same price.
Correct.
So I think, actually to get into Warhammer isn't that expensive. And I think where people kind of conflate this and sort of make and start saying it is really expensive. Don't get me wrong. Games Workshop could afford to make less money on each model. That's not an argument that this is about, but actually I think it is, as it stands at the moment, is sort of fairly affordable to get into. Now, where it does get more expensive is if you are insisting on playing sort of 2,000 point games with meta armies and stuff like that. But actually, to play on your on your kitchen table with with a few models and roll a few kind of like the little tiny basic dice that come with the set and things, it's not that difficult to get into and not that expensive to get into. Now, if you want to expand that army and get like the latest stuff, then yeah, of course it's going to be a lot more expensive to do that. But I think the community has almost, it's made what like the 2,000 point game like the basic standard. Like, everybody talks about 2,000 point lists. Like nobody's ever talking about 1,000 points, 500 points, and you know what, there's a few like Murfield miniatures and things like that. They've run like a few smaller tournaments, like 500 point tournaments and stuff like that. And you know what, like, yeah, you're probably not getting the full kind of 40k experience from playing 500 points, but you know what, people are still able to play games with a very limited number of models. And I think, the next step on from that is like the combat patrol. So how much is a combat patrol? About £90 from GW?
Yeah, 100, yeah, exactly. I think it's 108 euros or something, or 120 euros from them, 108 from us, something like that. So yeah. All right.
So, those are, you can play just full combat patrol games, for essentially £100, and, obviously you need paints and stuff on top of that. But, you can play a full game with what's there. Like, if you are just playing it in your kitchen against your mates, that's absolutely fine. And that's
totally
what I think a lot of people do. Whereas I think people online kind of, they have this vision that, you know, the basic standard of starting to play Warhammer is this 2,000 point list with like some Forge World models in it and some really kind of niche units that kind of, you know, if you want 2,000 points, it's going to cost you 400 quid to get there.
Yeah,
Not
and if you want
everybody
2,000
needs
points
all
of
that.
meta, like I say, you need 3 of the whatever bullshit thing is popular at that time, and then you need to rebuy more stuff, and your army's useless. Like, so yeah, I absolutely actually agree with you. So now, if I take even shop hat on or off or whatever, like I have like a ground level of how people feel about Warhammer. And for us right now, the most popular events we have, I run the big 2,000 point ITC, WTC, Golden Ticket Islands event, right? Islands Large. I run that. In fact, in like 3 weeks, I've got another one of those. Will be the largest we've ever had in Ireland. But that's like, I had to really decide to whether to run like a narrative event or like a competitive event, right? I wouldn't call my tournament competitive, but it is a competitive event on paper. Although most people there are just having fun. And the majority of people, I'd say it's the same 8 people in the top 8 spaces, right? This is the 6th one I've run.
Of course it is,
the same people. They know what they're doing. They're lovely. They're friendly. And even people coming into store saying they've played those people come away having a good experience because they're good ambassadors for the game at that level.
Yeah.
But more than half the field is their first event or their second event with us or whatever. And they're just there to roll dice. They don't often finish their games in 3 hours. You get 3 hours, 50 minutes, whatever it is. But I think in store, because Age of Sigmar is new at this point in time, we're in, 11th of the 10th, 2024. So that's Spearhead is only a couple of months old, Skaven time.
Yeah. When think about it, is it June, July?
Yeah, June. And June. Later June, not so rare, a couple of months old. But Combat Patrol and Spearhead are the 2 most popular events I have in store. And we treat those as sort of learning days for people because most people are intimidated by the idea of playing 2,000 points against people who know what they're doing, right? You like to say the internet has created this man, this everything is competitive, everything is meta, everyone's out to beat you, everyone wants to take 3 Brutalis Dreadnoughts or whatever. Like, most people aren't doing that. From my experience, 90% of people don't care. They don't know. They don't know what the metalists are.
And I think, you know, it's kind of, you get into those echo chambers, you know, if you're posting a lot online or reading a lot online, you kind of get into this idea that actually, you know, you need to have that 2,000 meta list to be able to kind of like play 40k. You don't. You know,
like if you and I play a game, like even going back to that Lord of the Rings thing, we did not take a meta list, right?
No.
I said I'm either playing Theoden or Elrond, and that's it. So you work out what that is, and we'll play that. So it's either Defenders of Helm's Deep, right, or Last Alliance. And then you were like, oh, you want to take not Isildur. Who's Isildur's dad?
Elendil.
Yeah, Elendil, right? He was the better choice to play with.
Oh,
right?
totally,
Been, but I said no because I want to shout, you know, castle into the flames or whatever. Like, so if we took that, none it was shitter. So like, but that's more fun. And I think most people just like to play the models they got. And so there's like 2 entry points, right? You can either you always need your paints, and they come from either Games Workshop or Army Paint or Vallejo. I think Games Workshop will be people's most common entry because they're the ones we most often see. If you buy Army Paint or Vallejo or whatever, AK or Scale 75, you need to find like most of the guides, Games Workshop is the baseline. Most of my videos, Games Workshop will be the baseline. But of course, you can then go and find comparison charts and whatever. And that kind of comes down to the stores you're talking to or where you are. So you've either got like your Recruit Edition with a couple of paint sets. You can buy like the Tyranid and the Space Marine paint set. If you live in the same household, you just need the 1 box. If you and I were to split a box, one of us would have the rules, one would not. A lot of the rules are free. Combat Patrol rules are free on the app. You just download the app and you get the full Combat Patrols, and the core rules are all free for people to buy. The book itself is €55, 49.50 from us, or whatever it is in England, probably 40 quid. Yes, it's expensive, but it does come with like, and a lot of people ask you where do you start with lore. But like, if you want a general brief overview of what Warhammer 40,000 is, a core rulebook is good. It gives you a couple of pages in every faction, tells you what's going on, you know, tells you what happened a bit.
It's kind of a good way to, you know, if you kind of want to get into Combat Patrol, you probably start with the book and then have a look at, you know, which faction kind of takes your fancy sort of thing. Like there's some factions in there that, you know, a bit of a tangent here, but, you know, factions that just historically just didn't appeal to me whatsoever. You know, things that I would never really have been interested in. But when you start reading a bit about the lore, you're like, oh, actually, they're quite interesting, and I can kind of see like why they are the way they are, if that makes sense. And you kind of, you know, you can almost see like you can get like a bit of an affinity, even though they're like not the. I know there's no good in 40k, but like you have factions that are slightly gooder than others.
I mean, that kind of is good, right? Like, yes, if you don't delve into whatever 40k politics, like the Space Marines and the Imperial Guard are the good guys.
Yeah.
They just are. Like, and
Yeah,
Chaos are the bad guys, and
they're
demons are
fighting.
bad. Orcs are destructive but fun, but they are good guys, really.
Yeah, like they're kind of defending humanity and like
From the broad
how
premise of the game.
How they get around that sometimes is a little bit questionable, but broadly, they are trying to defend the human race as a species.
But even just avoiding like the game law politics, just from Games Workshop's perspective,
totally,
Space Marines, the Guard, and the Sisters and the Grey Knights are all good guys, the last bastion of humanity. Tyranids are this mindless eating thing. Necrons are like old robot dudes. Eldar are like sort of a bit good, but if you like elves, they're the same thing. Aloof, don't like humans, don't like chaos, manipulate stuff. Dark Eldar are clearly evil. Chaos are clearly evil. Demons are clearly evil. So like, you always say that, don't you? People, and I always feel like I have to say the same thing. There are no good guys, but like, they are selling a good guy, right?
Yeah, there are definitely sort of slightly gooder guys, aren't there?
Yeah, and slightly worse guys. And, people have their views on Tau and the greater good and all these things. But like, if a customer comes in and say, hey, I don't know what Warhammer's about, I say Space Marines, 6 foot, 8 foot power armored humans, good guys. Bad guys, Tyranids, mindless aliens, right? It's
everyone else.
How we view it. like really broad, big sweeping brush. So like that's a big part of it. And people love Marines, man. Like people love Space Marines.
They do.
They're just cool. Even I love them. I love the Horus Heresy. I love all of them.
We've talked about this before. Like, when you have new Space Marine releases, that you're going to have a bumper week of pre-orders, don't you?
Every weekend with Space Marine pre-order, it'd be great.
Yeah, so if you looked at what you have on your shelves, it will predominantly be Space Marines, I guess.
I've got a broad brush of everything, but if I have to, multiples of stuff, it's Space Marines, right? Like multiple intercessors. Like if I don't have intercessors in, I'm losing, right? Because everyone needs Space Marine intercessors, assault intercessors, blade guards, whatever. If half of my sale, I haven't looked. Actually, do you know what? I should probably one day, we'll do a video on that. Should look in to what the most popular factions are. I wonder what exact percentage of sales from myself as a small family-run local gaming store. I'm going to say like paints are huge. Like paints and hobby products, everyone buys them, and Space Marines. Various forms of Space Marines. Right? Everything else, like Net Commander and Blood Bowl, once you've got your team, you've got your team. Who needs more of them? You don't. Yeah. So Games Workshop, yes, we see about this meta chasing and stuff, but at least they're keeping the game interesting by bringing new models out. Now, there are two schools of thought in that. One, it's like money making and removing old units, but like, I used to be a big fan of Firstborn when Primaris came out. So I'm not doing Primaris, whatever that was, like 10 years ago. Now I'm just over it. Like, Firstborn can go. I don't need a model from 1996 anymore, right? And they're like, I can't believe they got rid of my Dreadnoughts. I've had this in 2nd edition. You've had it for like 20 years. Like, it's fine. We've got a new, better looking model.
Retire that big old chunk of metal.
I don't need that can live in its old world. Give it this lovely new looking large Space Marine model, right? Because the sculpts are just better. Yes, I love the character novels, and I'm a huge advocate of old Warhammer, but like, it's time to move on. So
I think I think that's a topic for another video. Kind of, we'll kind of have a bit of a delve into classic models and what people kind of do. People have rose tinted glasses when it comes to the past. I think that's. I don't want to
do a spoiler, but I'm going to say my answer right now would be yes.
Yes.
Kira hates all the old models. She hates them. If I go, look at this, and I bought it on eBay, she goes, "What the hell is that?
What's that chunk? What's that paperweight that you bought?" Like,
I don't know if we swore on the podcast, but that was going to be an opportunity to do so. I don't know if we're PG, but
you can do a bit of swearing. It's fine.
Bugger, shit,
bugger,
fuck, bugger. But yeah, I think she hates them. She's like, why do you waste your money on that? It's more expensive than modern Warhammer, and it's shitter. I'm like, yes, it is. It's shitter. Like, I'm like, John, we've tried to do videos. I'm like, will you help me paint a 90s video? She's like, no, I'm not touching them. They look awful. And they all look the same. I was like, yeah, fair enough. So, you're right. Games Workshop bringing out new models keeps the game going. It keeps the game exciting. It changes the meta. Doing these updates means that every tournament's not like, imagine if it was just one army for every edition. It just wins.
Exactly.
Right? And then the meta never changes. New models never come out. Like, so
the whole balancing thing, like, again, this is a topic for another video. Like, the whole balancing thing is always going to be difficult, but it kind of leans back into kind of combat patrol. It's somewhat balanced at a kind of smaller scale.
You just play combat patrol and you can play that forever.
So you don't even really have to sort of think too hard. Well, you don't have to think at all about
No list building.
how you build your army, and you don't have to sort of think too much about kind of what am I going to come up against. Like, is it, is that meta army going to, like? Don't get me wrong. There's probably going to be some little imbalances there, but overall, roughly, they are going to be somewhat balanced.
Of course, some of the combat controls are stronger than others. Same with Spearhead. Some of them are better than others, but overall, yeah, you're not going to get you shouldn't get absolutely tabled immediately.
Yeah.
And it's just an easy way. So Kira, she's played Battlesets last week, like I said, and she's obsessed with orcs now again. She loves orcs. She paints orcs all the time. So she came to me the other day. She said, I want to play orcs in 40k. I want a 40k army. She has flesh terrors, but that was kind of a Leviathan video we did. So like that's not like she likes them for her Space Marines, but orcs are an army she just always likes. I don't know why. And I hate them. But sure, she's like, how do I build an orc army? And she's like, there's 2 combat patrols for orcs. One is like unavailable now. It was the old one, but you can still use it. And one is the new Beast Snagger Boys ones. And she's like, how do I build an army from that? So have you got the app? And she's like, I have no idea, like how to build an army. How do I build an army? That's why she likes combat patrol, because it just says, there you go, you take that. You can have 1 enhancement. You've got 3 stratagems. Let's have a game. That's why they're popular for newer players. I think it's an easy, 100 and whatever is quid. Sure, you can buy your paints and sprays, and like either way, you're spending that kind of money, right? You either buy a Recruit Edition, paint set and a spray can, or you buy a combat patrol, a rule book, some paints and a spray can.
And don't you think, like, you can make the hobby as complicated as you want to, can't you? Like I'm very lucky, like you're very lucky. I've got, 3D printer, I've got an airbrush, I've got like all the tools, and I've got, hundreds and hundreds of paints, from various multiple brands. But like, to get started, you don't need all that. It's not a kind of an expensive. You can. I remember when I first started, like, some of when I started back, I kind of rebought a lot of the paints, because a lot of my old paints had dried up in the pots and things. But some of the original models that I kind of painted when I kind of came back into it, I was really happy with them at the time, and I did that with maybe 10 or 15 paints. I didn't have loads and loads of paints, and they were just like in a little old fishing tackle box, and I had like 3 brushes and things. Do you know what I mean? You don't need loads and loads and loads of gear to hobby and to enjoy the hobby.
No, certainly not at the beginner stage. Like, you're not in the position with experience to be able to manipulate paint as well as someone who's painted a long time, and you will learn that. I had someone come in the other day, and they were talking about they'd bought whatever in their painting space. No, they bought the Kazakin box, and they were trying to talk about different highlights. So, from a sales point of view, there's things, the products you would recommend. Now, I never want to recommend things. I don't always want to go home feeling like I've been ripped off, or they spent too much money, right? And they wasted stuff. Never said, I just don't want to do that. Maybe I should. I don't know. Maybe I should be a Games Workshop salesperson and be more pushy. But they were like, oh, how do I get that? I was like, you can just add white to that or yellow to that, and you're brighten it. And he's like, I hadn't even thought of that. I was like, do you know what I mean? The triad is great. If you're doing an army, it's easy. But you could just add a bit of color, like, white will make it more pastel or whatever. But you can add yellow to blue. Or, do you know what I mean? Like this, you can hit the guys that I hadn't even thought I can do that. I was like, yeah, you just, you can do
easy.
that.
Yeah, I think you kind of get very
palette then, right? But and the whole like wash base highlight is great if you're doing things en masse. Like, I don't mix paints a lot. I just don't. But
no,
if I'm painting en masse, I just grab my 3 paints and it's fine. But like, if you're looking to save money, you can save yourself £3 on a paint pot by just having white paint or black paint.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did with my Urukai army, because they were like the second army that I kind of painted. I just kind of had like a brown, I can't remember which brown it is now, like a Mornfang brown, I think, which I used as like the base coat for the for the flesh, and then just added in like a bit of flesh color to kind of brighten it up a little bit, and it looks absolutely fine. It works perfectly fine for kind of Urukai flesh. So you don't need to kind of buy loads and loads of paints to kind of get started, especially if you go for a sort of fairly if you're painting a Space Marine army, like, realistically, you don't need that many paints at all to get that painted, do you? And especially if you're starting from a spray can color or something, I know Games Workshop do a range of sprays, but like Colourforge and things now, they make loads. Do you stock Colourforge and
we do stuff? Colourforge, Army Painter, Citadel. Like, I often say to people, they like people. The worst part about painting is overcomplicating it when you start out. People see these things online. You see, and I feel that way sometimes. You see these amazing painters, the Golden Demon winners recently, and I'm never going to paint like that unless I dedicate hours and hours and hours of my time. I think you could take lessons and you can improve, I think there is a natural ability there, which probably caps at some point, but I could certainly improve my painting. I'm happy enough with my painting style now. I'd like to do better, but that requires time, effort, and money, right? Which all those things do.
Which we don't have.
Right, and a painting course could cost you 200 quid for a weekend, I would say. A 2-day painting course with someone like Miles from Little Legend, amazing painter, friend of mine now. I think it's about 150 quid for a weekend. I learned everything I did about airbrushing there, and I feel I improved a lot. So there's a lot to be learned from following people's Patreons, but realistically, it's going to take you a long time to get used to painting anyway. So people often come in and go, I want to do this effect, and I've seen this glow, and I've seen this. I think, mate, just chill out. Like, you never painted before. But and if you've got like 30 space marines to do, buy the blue spray. I know it's 16 quid or 15 quid, whatever it is. But like
that will that will save you as well from
you want to finish your models. You want to finish your models. Don't just like, and he's like, oh, how do I strip them when I've got bored of them? I'm like, you can strip them, but like keep them, paint them, finish them, finish the models at least. You finished the project. Right, I did that. This is what I've learned. You'll be better on your second set, right? You're never going to be good to begin with. No one is. You're just not. No, you're just not. So yeah, make your life easy. Make your life as easy as possible. People come there say, how can I paint a black army? I say, right, black spray paint, grey Xenophil from above.
Yeah.
Normal all over, thin down. That's your black armor done. It will give a nice bit of contrast, cheap and easy. So like, why then spend your time painting black and edge highlighting, all this stuff? Like, you don't need to do that. Like, you want a tabletop standard so you can play a game against your mates and you go, yeah, go, they're my Ultramarines. Right?
And it's painted. Like, that for me was, I will, again, this is like an unpopular opinion. I will never personally play an army unless it is painted. I'd never bring an unpainted army to a tournament or anything like that. It would always have to be fully painted. And if I want to take a new army and it's not fully painted, I will take something that I've already got painted. I just wouldn't take anything that's not painted. And that's kind of like a personal, like, I guess gives me like a sense of pride sort of thing, that I'll only play paint size. And when I've said that in the past, it's like, oh, you're being elitist, and what about people who can't paint? It's like, I get it. There's loads of armies that I would love to have painted, but realistically, I don't have time to paint all the armies that I'd like to. But for me, playing the game, a lot of it is immersion. You want to be kind of immersed in what the game would be like, so having nice terrain and things like that. But that doesn't necessarily stop you from playing. You should kind of aim to have stuff painted.
Yeah, it's part of the hobby, right? The hobby is, for me, is 3 parts, right? There's like collecting, painting, playing. Right? And I'm never in all 3 moods at the same time, but sometimes I just want to assemble stuff. By I kind of mean by collecting, it's like have models assembled. Sometimes I want to paint. So if I'm going to paint, I'll just do all the base coats on something. At least the army is all purple or all red or whatever. And then painting, I can do later. So yeah, I'm the same. I don't have much time to paint. I have very few painted armies, considering that I can think I'm on year 32 in the hobby. I have like 2 painted armies or something. Yeah, maybe. But lots of things 90% done. So like this, if you're playing against someone else in a tournament and they spent their time and they got nice terrain, you Warhammer World, it's a nice event for you, and you spent 80 quid on your ticket. You don't want to play against unpainted stuff, right? You want to be playing the game. But obviously there's people out there who can't paint. Totally understandable. That's kind of a different thing. I would know, if people can't.
I'll make allowances for other people. But if in a perfect world, I would love to play against all fully painted armies. I'd love to play against like kind of all fully golden demon painted armies, because that would be like the maximum level of immersion. That's never going to happen, obviously. No. But it's reality. I think I think most people would probably say the same thing.
I agree, and who cares about the standard of your painting, right? If put time into whatever, and they don't feel they're that great, or haven't. I don't care. If you spend time on those models, they're your models, and you've done a great job.
Yeah, totally.
You'll only get better.
I've got some armies that are kind of quite roughly painted, and that's because I wanted to play. I wanted to just use them. So they are kind of a little bit basically painted. But then I've got some armies that I've really kind of loved and I've spent a little bit more time on and things like that. And you're probably the same. You've got someone like you spent a lot of time on the Avatar of Cain that you painted and spent a lot of time on.
Model I've loved painted for years. So why not spend my time on that?
Yeah. But then obviously the rest of the army might not necessarily be perfectly painted, but we've gone off on a little bit of a tangent here. Like it is now the best time to get into Warhammer. So one of the last points just around kind of getting your armies ready and things is obviously we've got like contrast paint, speed paints and things now, which I think have made getting your army painted so much better. And combined with that, I think they absolutely lend themselves to modern models because they've got all the kind of the deeper crevices, the kind of the more pronounced edges and things like that. So obviously the paint flows better into those kinds of models. And it's almost like models now are being designed with speed paints and contrast in mind. Would you agree?
I'd say so. Black spray can, white zenithal, contrast over the top, done. Right, and that's all.
Dry brushing seems to be the way, like that. Everyone's
people
going
love the Snapchat, right? Dry brush the white, whatever suits you, whatever tickles your particular fancy. But yes, that was kind of the point I think we were getting at when we started talking about painting. Is painting is like there's so many tutorials, so many guides. It's as difficult as you want it to be, and it's as easy as you want to make it. And who cares how good you are? Is kind of the main thing. We should be enjoying all aspects of the hobby. So like, totally. just enjoy painting. Don't put pressure on yourself. We do, and I feel all the time to put pressure on myself with videos because you're being subjected to like more focus than my eyeballs would be. Massive on the
you
camera
put something on the table, you look at it even from a foot away, you're like that looks pretty good, and then you look at it really close up, and you're like, oh, well, the eyes are a bit wonky, or that shading's not particularly good, and you do kind of criticize yourself quite a lot, and that's I think. We've discussed it quite a lot. It's probably the reason that we don't put as many videos out as we want because we're kind of perfectionists. And don't get me wrong, I'm not the world's best painter, by a long shot. But you want it to be as good as it kind of can be, really, don't you?
I think so. So I think a lot of people, a lot of new people put that pressure on themselves and just don't.
Yeah, totally.
So there's products and affordable to get into it. There's like access with YouTube and Space Marine 2 and all these things are an easy way to find, and it's an easy way to connect with other people, right? Other people play those games, so it's not like you're like this stranger nerd in the corner going like, oh, I play Space Marine 2, and that no one knows what you're talking about. Everyone knows what you're talking about.
And I think with obviously the internet being so, and Facebook groups, and there's so many like local Facebook groups now as well for 40k and things like
every town has one, man.
Has been easier than ever. Like I'm on the Element Games couple of their Facebook groups, and they're literally like 10 minutes walk away from me. I could get a game any night of the week that I wanted. Whereas I think in the past it's been kind of one of those things where you have to have either friends that are already into it, or are kind of people already that are playing, or go down to your local shop and hang around until somebody turns up with an army that you want to kind of play against and things. Whereas that those sorts of days are now over. And I think it's so much easier to arrange games now and meet people, like-minded people that are in your local area. That it's just made it so much more accessible to be able to play the game.
So is now a good time to get into Warhammer?
It is now the best time to get into Warhammer. I think it is. I think it's never been more accessible. Pricing of 2,000 point meta armies aside, I think it's still relatively affordable. And I think you can have a lot of fun with kind of very minimal amounts of kind of investment into it. That both in terms of financially and time investment as well. I think
finding the right play group for yourself is important. You want to play against people who play the same kind of game, and there are people out there who love competitive 40k, and you might not. If you're going to play against them, you're going to get chanced every week, and it'll be depressing. So, and then the other side, you might want to play and learn to be better at the game. And there are lots of like academies. I mean, what's it? Vanguard Tactics, right?
Yes,
an academy to teach you how to play Warhammer. That's a thing now. So like, you might want to do that, and you're playing against your mates, and you just chance them every week. It's not fun for anybody. So do find a like-minded group, I think. And there are different strokes for different folks out there for Warhammer. I know how I don't play often. I like to have fun more than anything else, but that's not to say playing competitively isn't fun either. So I think find your group. And like you say, it's like back in the day, man, it was turn up to games on a Thursday with my 40k army and my fantasy army and hope someone else turned up with an army and there was a space to play. Now you can play anywhere. Like there's gaming clubs at schools, there's local gaming stores in most towns or cities, there's Games Workshop stores, there's Tabletop Simulator online. There's all these ways now you can play. And that's something else. TTS, right? You can play Warhammer online.
Totally, yeah.
I don't particularly enjoy it, but if you want to learn the game, or you don't live somewhere near people, or if no one near you does play on there. I
know there was a kind of a group that kind of play regularly and things, and like obviously over lockdown, they were just literally just playing games out on and scenarios out on Tabletop Simulator. They were just kind of, doing, playing stuff and like repeating it. Like Tabletop Simulator is not for me. I prefer that kind of closeness over the table and things like that. That's kind of more what I get out of playing, is that, that social
meeting people. Yeah, people.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of social aspect of it. But, if you want to get better at the game or just play the game, if the social aspect isn't for you, which, don't get me wrong, for some people, going out and actually meeting people is a bit of a nightmare. But yeah, that's a great way of playing as well. So yeah, I think, the game has never been more accessible, more available to people, and a relatively affordable price if you're only just getting started.
Taking my old grognard rose tinted glasses off, I'd say like the 90s was like, in some ways, like a golden era of the hobby moving forward, right? Growing and all these amazing artwork and it's amazing stuff. And the Games Workshop has changed since then, right? Mm-hmm. It was sort of a hobby company. Now it's a business. Fair enough. And I think now with the invent of the internet and all these other things now, it's never been more accessible, never been more popular. We probably now are in the golden era of gaming.
I think, in 30 years' time when we're, oh my God, we'll be in our 70s.
Don't want to know.
But there'll be kids now that are just getting into it now and saying, oh my God, do you remember Combat Patrol? Oh my God, wasn't that amazing? I'm going to go and find a seal. I'm going to go and find a sealed Combat Patrol box.
Yeah.
Like, seal Leviathan. Oh my God,
not, right? Will it be? It bloody will be.
It may be. Who knows? But I think, we are kind of we are in that day. I really wanted the Leviathan box when I was a kid, but my mum and dad wouldn't get it for me. But now that I'm 35, now I can afford to buy one. So
you wish you were 35.
Yeah, I know. I wish I was 35. The grand old age of what are we, 37?
I don't know.
37? We're old. But yeah, so I think it is that kind of golden age. So yeah, I think we've covered everything as much as we need to.
At this point, I do like a audience, ask the audience question section, or like a Patreon section. But
yes,
we don't have one.
We've not put a video out yet. We've not put the first one out yet. So
exactly. So would you now, if you were listening, like an ask the audience kind of 10 questions about whatever specific topic we're talking about? I think now would be a good time for that.
Yeah. So if you have got any
questions.
Yeah, so if you have got any questions, pop them down in the comments, drop us a message over on Instagram, and in the next video, or maybe the one after, depending on when we decide to put them out and things, but we will get round to answering questions, and we want to kind of have a little bit of participation from you guys at home. So yeah, please drop us questions, comments, whatever you thought. If you agree with us, disagree with us, yeah, just let us know. It would be interesting to see what you guys think about this topic, and whether now is the best time to get into Warhammer.
I mean, 30 years ago was the best time, but that's gone. So clearly, now is the best time.
Unless you're still buying 30-year-old models. But anyway.
Terrible.
Right. On that note, we have been Side Quests, the podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I've really enjoyed this one. How about you, Ollie?
Me too. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been fun. It's got over nearly an hour. How did we do that?
I know. We were like, well, let's try and keep it to 40 minutes. But then we were whittering on for about 20 minutes about what we've been doing. So, it's kind of gone on a bit longer. But yeah, we're going to try and keep them a little bit shorter going forward. But if you're enjoying the longer form content, again, just let us know in the comments, and we'll take your feedback on board. But again, thank you so much for watching and listening, and we will catch you in the next video. Bye.